We have the KBO Ranger that I've been waiting on for about 2 months. It was back ordered. Number of people were waiting on this bike. I'm not a big fan of unboxing videos, but there is some assembly required with this. This is actually the second KBO bike that I've purchased. I was not given this bike or anything. I did purchase this for my own use, but I wanted to offer some tips and just show how it's done. The videos that KBO puts out makes it look easy. The first thing you want to think about is that this is extremely heavy. If you can't lift 80 pounds by yourself, you're definitely going to want some help with that. A couple things you're going to want to have on hand. Something to receive all the trash you're going to generate, because there is a lot of packing in here. They pack these really well, but unfortunately you're just going to have a lot of stuff that you're going to have to throw away. And then we have a number of tools here, and I'll go over those real quick. You're not really going to need everything that you see here, but I like to just be prepared for what might come. If it's like the last KBO bike, you're going to get one of these tools, which are really handy to keep on you when you're actually riding the bike. It's got some Allen wrenches, a specific tool for tightening the bike pedals, and a couple other tools in here. However, this tool alone, you can't reach all the bolts that you might need to tighten, just because of the design with this. It takes up a lot of space. So I do have some just random Allen wrenches here available. You're going to want some snips, because there are zip ties in there. That'll make things much easier. You may want some pliers for pulling off the staples on the box. Maybe some scissors, some sort of cutting instrument, a razor blade here. This is actually a wind key, but I find these really convenient for opening boxes. And then this is just a wrench that came with a bike seat that I got, and I found that to be pretty handy for getting into tight places. This here is a possibly need, based on the last bike that I had. Getting at one spot in the fender, one of the screws was loose, and it's up, above the tire. So having a 1/4-inch ratchet with a screw on the end, or a screwdriver bit on the end, may come in handy. Okay, so the only other thing I might need is if my dogs or wife or children come in, maybe a little pepper spray to hold them off. All right, so let's start. Go ahead and cut some of this tape, and I'm going to speed up a lot of this when you're watching it. And I'll just bring the camera over and show you what it looks like at this point. Lots of packaging. You're going to find this box in here, so we'll go ahead and open this up. Alright, so in here we got our pedals. The tool I was talking about. This is to attach your front tire. The light that comes with it. And this is a pretty beefy looking light. Looks pretty impressive. User manual. Based on the last one, I'm not expecting too much from the user manual, but you will want to go through this at some point. And let's see what's in this box here. Yes, our 3-amp charger. So we may want to get the battery out as soon as possible and get it charging so we can ride it as soon as possible. And I'm just going to set this stuff aside and continue unpacking. All right, there's just some extra styrofoam on top here. And I am impressed with the way they pack these. It's coming a long way from China. All right, so this looks like a running board. Zip tie here. Okay, and the running board looks real sharp. These are nice wood. I'm sure it's some sort of laminate or composite, but it does feel pretty solid, good quality. Set that aside. And we've got our other running board here. Now for me, one of the quick key things with this bike is that I'll be able to have my youngest daughter ride on the back. I also have Electric 8 XP that my 10-year-old daughter is able to ride on her own. So. So at this point, everything in here is connected. I can see that the tire is just zip tied on the front tire, so I'm going to cut that off and pull that. All right. Now at this point, this isn't attached. This will be something we do in the assembly. But you can see these are nice beefy tires. I don't think they're as fat as the electric, but definitely good quality tires. And they inflate to 30 psi max. This one is mostly inflated at this point. One thing to note on these KBOs, this sidewall reflector. These are actually awesome. I was surprised at how well they reflect, so I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Okay, I'm just going to show you what I'm seeing now. So this is the front of the bike here. And back here you've got that nice large rack and the KBO seat on there. You can see the keys here. I believe the battery is pre-installed, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. At this point, you either need to lift everything out or put the box on its side, depending on what you're comfortable with if you have helpers. I'm going to go ahead and try and lift it and kick the box out of the way. Like I said, I've been waiting 2 months for this. In the meantime, I got a gym membership and started working out just for this day. All right, and that is not light. And just make sure you're okay. So for the front, there is something to prop this up, and it looks like that piece actually did break in shipping. No big deal, but just to kind of hold this up off the ground. Okay, so kind of a pain in the butt that is broken because the bike's not going to stand up by itself without that. All right, so I'm just going to lean it on its side right now against the box. Now, that's not going to affect any functionality. It's just a convenience thing. Kind of a pain in the butt that it's broke, but overall, everything else, looks good. The box was in great condition, so probably just got jostled. All right, so I'm going to continue by cutting off the rest of the stuff here. Keys, you definitely don't want to lose these. Now, unlike some bikes, the keys for this serve only to remove the battery. They don't actually kill the power to the bike, which would be a nice security feature. But in some of my other videos, I'll talk about how I secure these bikes. This bike only comes in 2 different colors. The other one's like a grayish, much more subdued color than this. I wanted something with pretty high visibility, and I mean, this orange really does look sharp. The paint job is really good. The welds all seem, like high quality welds. I'm not a welder, so I don't know for sure, but you're gonna, at this point, you can go ahead and either install the wheel. It's probably easier. You want to get the handlebars attached. And if you look, you'll see this can go, you could turn this around, but you do want this facing forward. So I'll go ahead and get the tools that I'll need for that. These are just going to be Allen wrenches, and you want to make sure that you don't lose any of these, of course. These are going to take a 4mm Allen wrench, and this one was actually loose enough to do it with my fingers. And they do have a little washer on there. Put that in a safe place. Now, from my previous experience, you want to check these, any of your mounting points and whatnot after you've ridden the bike a little bit. Just make sure stuff's staying tight. On my Breeze step-through, the other KBO bike, on the kickstand, one of the bolts was coming loose, and it came loose a couple times even after I tightened it. So I did use a little bit of the blue thread lock, which isn't permanent, but will hold that in place. And it's just, from vibration that it was coming out. And the kickstand, of course, holds a lot of weight. So this one has a center kickstand. I imagine it's a little bit beefier. So this piece is the same. It doesn't matter if it's that way or that way. And once you maneuver it a little bit, it's going to seat right in there. And we'll go ahead and put this on. You do want to keep the cables on the outside. And right now we're just trying to get it assembled, but you'll, adjust this however you want. Now you'll get these in here, and you can worry about adjusting it later. Just keep in mind these bolts go through, and this piece doesn't sit flush the way it was when you took it off. All right, so at this point it's loosely in there. There is some play left to right. There are lines on here so you can see if it's centered. You can adjust this back and forth as needed. And again, once you're ready to ride, that might be something. I'm just going to center it at this point. And I always recommend going in a diagonal pattern when you tighten something like this. So we'll just go ahead and tighten this to where that's snug. All right, so those are snug now. When I finally do adjust it fully, I'll give them a tighter turn. You don't want to tighten these things too much though, because you risk stripping the screw, and that'd be really bad. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is get that wheel on. All right, so before we put this wheel on, I just realized something that would have made that much easier for me. This has that center kickstand I was telling you about. Well, that's a 2-point kickstand, and it will actually hold up the front end of the bike. So I didn't need to lean, on the box, and assembling this would have been much easier if I had thought of that. So I'm going to put that up now, and then we'll install the wheel. And that is going to make this much easier. So I'm just going to pull this plastic piece off that's supposed to support the bike. And you'll have this here. I am going to need a tool to get this off. It shouldn't be on too tight. Oh, I can just do it with my hands, so we'll go ahead and do that. And this is just, there's no use for this after you remove it. It's just for shipping purposes. Okay, so we've got our wheel now and the skewer. Now this is one of the quick release ones. One of the things that people do recommend for security reasons is, at some point if you can, replace this with a nut and bolt, something that's not, someone can't just pop your tire off. The tire itself, you're going to see this here. This is just a plastic cover. So you're going to pull that off. And I mean, this is really convenient with the center stand. The KBO Breeze I have, you had to hold this up and, lift it in. On this side here, you're just going to slide this into your disc brake as you lift this up. Oh, and also on the other side, there is a cap as well, plastic cap. Just pull that off. It actually broke when I pulled it off. And you'll take the nut off of the end of your skewer here. I don't know that it really matters which side you put the quick release on, but I'm going to do it opposite the disc brakes. So just make sure you line this up as you go in to the brakes. Drop the spring, so you're going to want to put the spring before the nut here. If you do have a way to secure the handlebars so it's not moving around on you, that could be helpful too. Alright. And I'm just propping it up with my foot at the moment. And I'm going to put that spring with the wide end out. You're going to tighten that hand tight here, and then on the other side, you can, just like any quick release, which I'm sure you're familiar with, go ahead and lock that in place. And just make sure you're fully seated before you do that. All right. So, and down here I am noticing there is a little bit of paint damage here from this little piece breaking. I mean, it's like maybe a centimeter, very non-noticeable, but I might want to just touch that up with a little nail polish or something, just so that water can't get in there. All right, so it's looking really sharp at this point. We'll go ahead and install the pedals. At this point, you're mostly assembled. Let's see, we got the running boards we'll need to put on, the fender here to keep you from splashing, and then we need to get the battery charged. Okay, I lied. Before I'm going to finish off the bike, I'm going to get this battery charging so I can ride it. So it's got the key in here, and basically, like I said, all this does is serve to lock the battery in the bike. So when you turn this, you don't have to worry about the battery falling out. It'll pop out like that, and then there's actually a lever on the battery that you just pull, and the battery comes out like so. It is a very beefy, heavy battery. You can charge it off the bike. There's a port right here, and actually when this is in the bike, on the opposite side, there's a weatherproof cover that allows you access to charging. So convenient to charge it off the bike. Another security feature, if you're keeping it outside or something, you can bring the battery in. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in, and the light will turn red on that. The battery itself does have a indicator here. There's no charge in it right now, but you can get a rough idea of how charged the battery is. So now for the brake pedals. And we are going to need the tool I talked about earlier here. And these are maybe different than you're used to, but they are labeled. There's an L on this one and an R on this one. So also right here it tells you, which way you're going to tighten it. And again, something like this, you do not want to over tighten and strip. So we're going to go ahead, and you can initially hand tighten it. And for this left side, I'm turning counterclockwise. Well, I was using the tool in the wrong direction. That could explain that. You guys must be making me nervous. Better, I'm just too excited. All right, let's try that again in the counterclockwise direction. All right, so it's pretty tight now, pretty snug. I'm just going to give it a little bit more. All right, so now I'll do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm gonna spare you that because it's the same exact thing, but the opposite direction. Okay, for the running boards, I'm just gonna show you one side. Obviously, this other side is the same. You've got 1, 2, 1, 2 mounting places there, and then you've got this mounting screw there. So that's gonna go right there. Now this one has 2 washers. I assume you're gonna wanna do one washer, then the running board mount, then the other washer. And it looks like this rack, I mean, it has a lot of places where you can, you know, attach stuff, which is excellent. So I'm noticing, oh yeah. All right, so there, on these, there is a little blue thread lock on them, which is good. You may want to, you know, right now I'm not going to do it, but I'll probably come back and check how they're, you know, holding up, and I may add some new blue thread lock on them at some point. And down on the bottom here, if you can see it, it does adjust up and down. I'm just applying a little pressure to line up the hole. They may have overdone it with the thread lock. I may need to pull some of that, you know, scrape a little bit of it out, because this one does not want to go in easily. Yeah, so it's a little too tight on this bottom one. I'm going to come back through later with just a metal pick and pull some of that thread lock out, but these seem to be going in just fine. I'm not going to bother showing you installing the other side, but I'm just going to take a look and see if we have the same issue on this side. Doesn't look like it. You know, maybe someone just squirted a little too much in there. All right, so I'm going to stop here and get this other one installed. So I was able to resolve the problem I was having. When I did the other side, I did this piece first, got that mostly screwed in, then did the other two. Came back on this side. I was able to get it a little bit further, but was still having a lot of trouble. So I actually used, you know, a regular Allen wrench where I could get much more leverage while making sure not to strip it here. But I was able to power through that thread lock. So we're secure at this point. I mean, this is solidly on here. You're actually going to install the fender and the headlight at the same time. You'll see the connector here for that, and right here is where you're going to connect that. It lines up only one way. Also, one thing I didn't mention, up here you have a connector for the LCD controller screen, so you're going to want to connect that when you're ready. This actually is some Velcro here, so you can actually adjust the length of this wire. Where you're going to see the need to do that is, especially if you get that front rack. They sell a nice rack, however it seems a little overpriced to me, so I'm probably going to build my own. But they do give you that extra cable there for the headlight, which is really nice, so you can mount that on the front. In the little box that I opened at the beginning, I did forget to mention that these were in there. This is going to hold the fender on, I believe, down here on the wheel. So right here, this is just hand tightened. Now this piece goes up and down like that, so we're going to go ahead and, I believe that's correct. No, that is not correct. We want to have this back so that it's actually protecting you from water. So we'll go ahead and take those little screws. It's interesting, there's thread lock on these as well. So, you know, maybe they got some feedback about these coming loose, but that's nice. I'm just going to hand tighten that right there. And make sure that that is in the front. All right, that's not tight at all, but it's not going to fall out while I'm working on this. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and get our headlight here. And the way this works is just going to go right through here, I believe. I'm not sure if it matters. We'll put it behind the fender part though. And then we'll get this nut on here. It is a locking nut. So I believe this is a 4mm as well. So here some pliers are going to come in handy to just hold that nut, or I believe the tool that came with it, let's see, that may fit right over it. But this is definitely kind of awkward. Let's see if that one. I think I'm just going to have an easier time with these needle nose pliers here. So I'm just going to tighten it up, then move the headlight into position. Now the fenders on these are plastic, which is interesting because the Breeze model I have, they're actually metal. Doesn't really matter to me, it might matter to some people. And you just want to kind of make sure that you're centered as much as possible. And this is where this tool becomes awkward again, because you've got this metal piece sticking out that will actually block what you're trying to do. So you may want to just tighten from the backside. So that's pretty tight at this point. It's definitely not centered on that though. Go ahead and tighten down these pieces here because that's definitely going to help with centering it. And I can see it actually moving a little bit this way as I tighten this side down, but we're still too far off center. Now it would be handy to have a second person here as you try and tighten this down and center it at the same time. I don't have that luxury at the moment, so I'll just try and make do. All right, I think we're pretty centered. I'll probably do some fine adjustments on that later. I'll go ahead and plug this in. Again, there's a little thing, so you can only put it in the correct way, which may be easier said than done. There we go, a little snap. I like how it's very protected from the weather. We can tighten up all these wires as we like, and we'll go ahead and plug the LCD in. All right, so at this point we have a fully assembled Ranger and a battery that's still charging. I'll go ahead and get this outside and get some shots so you can see it a little bit up close.